Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around, gather round. It's your favorite voice actor and narrator from this side of Ohio, Brian Fawn, VA, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Now, we've always talked about unpopular opinions on this or that and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Today, we're going to be covering what's your most unpopular opinion about, drumroll please, DMing. This one should be exciting, and if you have something to contribute, you can do so in the comments below or on our subreddit r/MrRipper. Most players want to be railroaded slightly. I've tried campaigns where I open up the world as far as I possibly could and said, okay, where do you want to go? And people just flounder, suddenly deciding to do some digging for one particular person's backstory is, well, impossible, because everyone wants theirs to be first order of business. Or just fall too much in the line of, oh, I don't mind, we'll do what you'd want to do side of things. But if you run a campaign where you basically suggest kill stuff, do backstory stuff, start a wizard school, hello, aloha mora, most players will be infinitely happier and will follow that thread to the ends of the earth. I think most people are seeing railroading horror stories and overcorrect to, we want sandbox campaigns, with no idea of what that really entails. DMing, especially with friends, does not have to be hard, and lots of people make it more difficult than it really needs to be. Your friends want to have fun. As long as you're not all assholes, you're probably going to do fine and actually have fun. Will it necessarily be amazing D&D? Nah, but who cares? You had fun. The best way to get better is just by playing and stopping the overthinking game and getting in the way of yourself. When someone wants to try DMing for the first time, the correct answer to a lot of the worries is, just do it. It gets easier as you go. Hey, they're not wrong, practice makes perfect. There is a wrong way to DM, and there are many who would find better success with a different system than trying to half-ass D&D. Also, read the damn books. There are many posts of people coming up with systems or throwing in ideas that they think will change the game or make it more interesting, when most of it is just in the books. As a DM, I really enjoy players who optimize. It's easy to get people who know mechanics to be invested in the story enough to start role-playing. It's a lot harder to get someone who doesn't care enough about the mechanics to start. And the difference it makes is pretty huge. I don't ever have to wait on an optimizer because they already know what they're capable of and can quickly decide what they want their characters to do. Combat feels so much more fluid, and each fight scene feels like something out of Castlevania because it's fast and intense. Even in roleplay, these guys are so decisive. It takes a little work to get them to care about your world, but once they do, they always know what they want, and they're committed to getting it. Compared to the endless uhs and ums of so-called roleplayers who get crippling decision paralysis every time they reach a cross in the road. Just because I, the DM, spend hundreds of hours preparing a game for a party, that does not mean anyone will actually enjoy the game. Sometimes we just have to accept that what we want isn't what our players want, and there's gonna need to be compromises. Someone had a response to this comment, ooh, I'm excited. I used to DJ part-time for a few years, and I currently DM for D&D. I noticed some similarities between the two. You can plan a song playlist that you like in the hopes the punters will dig what you're playing. I've learned that this never works. A fellow DJ told me that it's basically just playing for yourself. At the time, it offended me. But I was new, and my ego was what was driving me, and that's okay. Ego gets us motivated to do lots of things. Later on, I learned to read the crowd and what they wanted. I had to learn to tell when they are getting bored and need something spicy. Takes time and lots of mistakes. DMing has been the same way, really. I would often railroad my players into a corner of stagnation. It takes time to learn how to make up inn names on the spot, or how to generate store items on the fly. Straight up, fuck all the new spells from Strixhaven, especially Silvery Barbs. This guy's coming in fucking hot. A first level spell that forces a reroll and gives someone of your choice advantage with no save involved? Seriously, who thought this was balanced? A wizard can basically become unhittable with that spell with the right build. They can reach a point where only crits will hit and then force a reroll whenever they are critting. It's a bit shit. I let my player have these spells in my Icewind Dale game that just ended, and I sincerely regret it. They're banned going forward. One of our guys here at the MrRipper team says Strixhaven is a mashup of a life simulator game and Harry Potter. Ooh, Harry Potter is always fun. It feels like Wizard of the Coast's way of appealing to people on Twitter who don't even play D&D. And judging by some of the spells and adventures from the book, it seems rather likely that's all they were doing. Who wants to run a coffee shop in D&D? I want to go on epic quests and gain treasure, not work at Starbucks. Unless that Starbucks had a lot of, gothic elven girls, then hey, sign me up, I'm down. Every player should at least try to DM a couple of games. This one is a counterpoint to the previous statement. DMing is hard work, to be sure, but if game prep legitimately stresses you out and you dread running sessions, DMing might not be for you. And another good tip for DMs, understanding your limits as a DM is important and will lead to better games. If you're not good at a specific part of the DMing process, for me in particular is puzzles, work to do your best and make sure everyone is having fun. I also find that puzzles for DMs are very hard to do. I always used to be really good at puzzles and sort of at everything else, aside from the storytelling, of course. It's better to accidentally be too rough and kill a PC than to never have challenging combat to begin with. This isn't popular among my friends, at least. DMing isn't as hard as people make it out to be if you have the right group. A lot of DMs are miserable DMing, and I ask them why. They often talk about their games, and one of the most universal factors is that their players and them are either not compatible, or their players are outright awful. Ugh, that's not cool. That being said, DMing is more of a feel than straight-up skill-based job. Some people aren't DM material, and that's fine too. It's okay to tell a PC that their idea doesn't work. They don't always get to roll for it. I stare the dragon down and threaten to cut out its eyes if it doesn't leave the cave, and let us take however much treasure we can carry. Nope, you don't intimidate the dragon. It snort laughs flames in your face at the attempt. Take 1d4 damage. And here's a quick rebuttal. I think it makes sense in those cases to explain why it doesn't work, and to say what they would need to do to make it work. So in that case, I'd say, the dragon is far too powerful right now and doesn't see you as a threat at all. Only after you've shown him your strength and weakened him a lot will he take your words seriously. That way the player doesn't feel like their idea had been completely shut down if they're committed to it, and they'll still be able to do it, just in a way that makes sense in game. That I agree with as well. You don't want to shut someone down for their unique idea, but you want to explain why an idea cannot work as it was given. You're not going to have a level 1 player be able to intimidate the big bad evil guy who is equivalent to a god. And if that does work, then, well, more power to you and your campaign, I suppose, but I just think that's a little bit too much. My most unpopular opinion might be that there is nothing wrong with using a pre-made adventure and an established campaign setting. I see so many people in the DM subreddits coming on asking about things, and you can tell they have no idea where to start. If you got a whole campaign or world or even a sandbox in your head, then go for it. But there are so many users coming up with the attitude that they have to homebrew from the start. I guess my other kind of unpopular opinion is that there are good adventures besides the Lost Mines of Phandelver and Curse of Strahd. Yes, those two are great, but not all the other adventures are crappy. Tomb of Annihilation and, with the right group, Wild Beyond the Witchlight or Out of the Abyss or even Ghosts of Saltmarsh are good adventure books. I think that in some corners there is an elitism about pre-made adventures and settings. You can have a fun game after limiting player options for race, class, and backgrounds. Not every world has Ninja Turtles or cat people, rawr. or even tieflings. Ugh. And great stories can be told without them. Now, believe it or not, one of the guys here on the team actually has a homebrew world that doesn't even have Goliaths or furbolgs because giants never existed there. A couple people declined to play in his game because they found out in his lore, orcs and half-orcs are considered monsters and are killed on sight. What are his exact words? "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to change my world's lore to suit your preferences. It's my world and I have things this way for a reason." Character backstories are for the players, not a laundry list for the DMs. It's okay to attack downed players. It's devious, it's evil, and it's entirely fair. It also gives a real challenge to fights if the player knows that the enemies will hit them or their allies when they're down. Yeah, because in real life, kick them while you're down, that's pretty much how the world is. Railroading is bad, but the illusion of choice is totally fine. 2 doors at the end of a hallway, there's a dragon behind one. Just depends on which one you open. Ooh, dicey. If you think the DM is inexperienced, instead of whining on Reddit about it, offer to sous chef the DM. We've got a response to this one from the thread. Oh, I can't wait for this. Definitely an unpopular opinion. I don't want or need a co-DM. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. If you want to co-DM, then you can simply be the DM and I'll be a player instead. Instead of offering to co-DM, you're better off just biting into every hook your DM throws at you and adding your own twist to a scene. Don't lean against what the DM is throwing at you, lean into it. Be enthusiastic and help add to the game. It makes a big difference when you have a player that just takes the breadcrumbs you've laid out and turns it into a whole loaf. It's perfectly fine for a group of players to make similar choices. Multiple examples of the same race, multiple examples of the same class, etc. If a DM is having problems working out how to balance for a party that is not mechanically optimal, then that's the DM's problem. If the players choose to bring 3 bards and 2 clerics, then that's their fair choice, and a decent DM should be able to craft an adventure that suits them. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here. We had some hot takes tonight, didn't we? That being said, make sure to leave a like, to subscribe, and to ring that little bell if you want to get notified when we post, or in the rare event we do go live, but we won't be going live here. It should be over on our Twitch, but that's in the description below. Now, of course, if you have a story you'd like to share with us below, or an unpopular or very popular opinion that you think is really cool, you can do so in the comments below. You can also do so on our subreddit r/MrRipper. Now, if you want to come say hi to me, Brian Von VA, you can do so over on my website, brianvonva.com. It's in the description below. I usually stream over on Twitch, and I'll be trying to rekindle a lot of stuff with YouTube and stuff later, but that'll come when it comes. I'm not too concerned about it right now. That being said, I try to end things on a positive note, and I just want to say this. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a thought structure. Everybody is entitled to it. I would never deny that on anyone. No matter how unpopular, popular, or right or wrong your opinion is, it is a frickin' opinion. You can have an opinion, but the whole point of life isn't to shove that opinion up someone's ass or down their throat. Unless, that's what you want to do, then hey, you're going to get consequences for that one. But the whole point here is you're entitled to think and believe what you want. Just as you hear and listen to and talk to other people, try to be understanding and expect understandingness back. Be open-minded. Be, what's the word? Not so selfish about an opinion, because we're all right, we're all wrong in our own way. And it's never wrong to be wrong. It's never wrong to have a problem, never wrong to be on the wrong side, to play for the wrong team, so to speak. That's cool. Just, if you hear an opinion, you're like, oh, I don't like that opinion, talk about it. Don't get mad about it, because at the end of the day, it might actually be a great way to open a new door for a new campaign, or, in my case, sometimes a new way of thinking, and I really appreciate stuff like that. So please don't ever stop being you. Just remember to have a lot of respect for each other because, well, world only goes one way, forward. All the love, be safe, be happy, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.